senior national security contributor. Lieutenant General Richard Newton, former U.S. Air Force Assistant Vice Chief of Staff and NewsNation senior national security contributor. Lieutenant General Richard Newton, former U.S. Air Force Assistant Vice Chief of Staff and NewsNation senior national security contributor. First of all, any guesses as to what these are? The Pentagon saying non-hostile.
Well, good morning, Marnie. You used the right word. This is probably the more bizarre stories you and I have covered over the last couple of years. Let me say also, when I oversaw global operations on the Joint Chiefs of Staff, part of my portfolio was then what we termed unmanned aerial vehicles and so forth. Secretary Rumsfeld, we used to say, there are unknown unknowns and known unknowns. I think this put it in a known unknown category. There's still, the Pentagon's is still trying to, they're being very forthcoming. They don't know. They don't know the sources of these. I suspect, I've talked, my sources tell me that I don't believe it's someone who's a hobbyist per se, because these were rather fairly complex drone operations during the nighttime over 17 days, as you mentioned, back in December. And they were flying at 100 miles an hour. Some of them were in formation. They varied their approach to the base, not only over Langley Air Force Base. By the way, Langley's a huge Air Force installation. I've flown in and out of Langley. It's the home of the F-22 stealth fighter. But also they flew near or over the largest naval port there over in Norfolk across the bay. So very complex, and I don't think the Pentagon has any answers on this one, Marnie.
Not at least that they're willing to share. So what types of action would the U.S. military take in an instance like this? I mean, 17 days. I know it's a bit of speculation on your part, but what would they have done to try to get more information about who they are and who is operating them?
Well, what they did was there was the commander of U.S. Northern Command actually had ordered a couple tactical fighter aircraft to try to fly alongside to try to garner as much information about these drones. I don't know how much of that information was garnered effectively, but it's not just the military. The FBI was brought in, local police authorities and so forth, Department of Homeland Security. A couple concerns here, Marty. First is the intrusion of highly restricted airspace over Langley and other military installations in that area is very concerning. Secondly, the safety of flight. You've got commercial and private aviation flying in around that large swath over in the Tidewater region. As I mentioned, I've flown in and out of that area quite a few times. There's a safety of flight issue here with these drones popping up for this period, and especially at nighttime. But still, they have not come up with what the source of these were. And I may also offer up, it's not unique that drones fly near military installations. That's been happening actually for many years. But a couple months previous to this, according to the Wall Street Journal, that there were actually 5 drone incursions near Department of Energy nuclear sites out near the Las Vegas area also. I don't believe they're connected, but again, it's like Secretary Rumsfeld said, this is a known unknown.
Right. What would lead to them shooting them down, right? What would raise the level of concern that they would need to take them out?
Well, if there was any what appeared to be an intent to do harm at any of these military installations, federal law actually prevents the U.S. military from shooting drones down over military installations unless there is an exhibited specific hostile intent. That did not occur back in December nor back in October, I believe, out there in the West in Nevada area. So it'd have to be hostile intent that would cause danger to not only the installation itself, but certainly the men and women there as well as their family members. But that wasn't the case apparently back in December.
What about the size of these drones, if they are in fact the size of cars? What does that tell you?
Well, again, my sources tell me they varied in size. One, they're up to about 20 feet long. They flew at about 100 miles an hour at varying altitudes. There were smaller drones. They were flying actually in formation. Say a flight of 2 flying above another flight of 2. The smaller drones were what we call quadcopters that were flying along. These are relatively small, probably less than a couple pounds. So that's why I go back. This isn't a hobby. This is more of a complex operation of these drones that were flying in formation with different types of drones in formation, which is, again, there's a conundrum here of trying to figure out not only what, but why.
Yeah, mystery and who. All right, Lieutenant General Richard Newton, thank you. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com.